I'm Ian, I'm a technical director here at Drago Entertainment.
Hi, I'm Kamil and I'm creative director in Drago. We thought that we want to deliver something for the players to get into the world a bit more easily. In survival mode, you don't have to necessarily follow them as of obligatory thing, and again, of course, it depends on the scenario, and I think that's a very important thing to say. Survival mode is divided into scenarios, which basically the idea behind it is to give the, again, more unique experience every time you replay the game. The replayability, thanks to those scenarios, is much more interesting. We came up with an idea that, let's say you want to try survival game mode for the first time, you want to some guidance or just some experience and approach the gameplay a bit more differently. You can customize your opening scenario to suit your, let's say, idea of the play. And I mean only about objectives, but also the weather, the temperature, the state of the clouds. Is effectively we put you somewhere in the scenario the character is already in, and your survival experience is put it into the test. So the objectives for those scenarios gives you this kind of vibe of, you know, oh, that character happened to in this place, what gonna do about it? And of course you are rewarded by following them. In story mode, you have to follow them to first of all learn the game, because the learning curve in the winter survival is, I would say, quite right. At the very beginning you might feel a bit overwhelmed or lost. Effectively depends if you have any experience of survival game before there or no. Still, you've got the new features that we want to teach the players. Therefore, story mode is about the introducing world to the new players. I mean, not only to winter survival, but the new in that genre in general. But also, we want to give the players who are already experienced survivalists the glimpse of the new mechanics, and of course, give the nice, interesting narrative experience.
I mean, like, if you would have to describe it very shortly, it would be like the scenarios are sort of like short stories, like short experiences that tell a basically a very small story within some problem that you're resolving, right? Like, for example, one of the scenarios is a cave scenario. It's collapsing, right? So his problem is, you know what, I can't live in this cave anymore, right? So he will have a few objectives that will allow him to build a house and then effectively move out of that cave, right? And that's the little short story, and that's one of the easiest one that we have available, which is, I guess, very similar again in the sickness scenario, which is the hardest one we made, or difficulty-wise, it's the hardest one that we made. And in that one, you will die if you don't if you don't do the scenario, right? So that one is sort of obligatory, that you have to resolve your problem, which is you are sick, you have respiratory infection, right? So, yeah.
But what is important to say is that we are giving the players actually a lot of resources in, like, it's a trade-off. So the more difficult resource you pick, the more resource we gave you. For example, in a sickness scenario, when you, as Ian said, actually will die, you don't want it. So we give the players a shelter, weapons. So basically the starting is a bit easier, so we can fulfill those objectives.
There's really a whole world underneath there for you to explore and to find out, hey, you know, what actually happened, what is this place, what are all these tools, buildings, what's going on, right? And this is on top of your own problems that you experience either in story mode or in the survival mode, right? It's all combined into like a bigger picture.
That's a challenging one, yes. When you are making a story in an open world, you don't know when the character is. You don't know what the character will do, I mean, the player will do. Our map, our game is divided into, I would say, chunks in the short term. Therefore, we know in the end when the player will be. Of course, we have a lot of elements to teach the player, features, as we said before. It's a story is on top of the narrative, interesting story is just a learning curve experience. So we also know more or less what the player will be to teach those features. So we focus on that as a first thing to pace the game. I think another thing to mention is very important, again, sanity, which gives us the tool that basically character with your progression. When you progress with progression of the game, the mental state of the character is also progressing. I would say regressing effectively. So this opens us up tools that we can provide and use more efficiently to give the story to the player, like hallucinations, for example.
Yeah, right. But we sometimes also physically block the player from progressing by, let's say, natural, unnatural barriers, right? Like, you know, let's say story-wise, between Act 1 and Act 2 transition, you literally cannot pass because there is a lot of
well, weather, yes.
I mean, there's weather, but there's also there's thorny branches or bushes or rocks in the way, and until certain story events happen, those things simply are in your way physically, and you just can't pass, right? And otherwise, yes, weather we definitely use as a blocker many times as well. We expect you to have certain gear level before you are able to pass to certain areas, right? So if we don't give you that gear in the story, then you won't be able to get it, which means you will just die if you get that, right? So it's like, we try to basically do it as, how to say, as hiddenly as possible in a way that doesn't feel unnatural. But, you know, we are using various ways of trying to just make sure that the player is where we want them to be at the time.
Yeah, but it is a challenge. Interesting one to solve it, but it's a puzzle, yes.